So today we're going to be solving one- and two-step equations and also inequalities. Remind me to do a few of those at the end. So just a few things. Remember, you want to get your variable on one side, numbers on the other, adding and subtracting unto each other, multiply and divide unto each other. We are going to show our steps, even though you might know the answers to start with. So please make sure you show your steps. And again, if you show doing something to one side, you must show that you're doing it to the other side to keep it balanced. So kind of the question you want to ask yourself is find your variable and say, I want to get it by itself, so what can I do to get it by itself? Well, I'm going to do the opposite of what's being done. So the opposite of add 8 is subtract 8. Show that on each side. So these undo each other. You don't really need to draw a line through them. So here you're left with x equals, and here you got to make sure that you do your arithmetic correctly, plus negative, so it would be negative 22. Here, what's the opposite of multiply by 6? Divide by 6, and we want to show that on each side. Again, the 6's cancel if you want to show it. 6 will not go into 40 evenly, so we're going to leave 46, but it will reduce what will go into both 40 and 6. 2 will, and you get 20/3. You may leave, and I do want you to leave it improper. So in this case, there's kind of two ways to do it. What's the opposite of multiply by negative 4/7? Divide by negative 4/7. But another way to do it is what's going to cancel with this would be 7 over negative 4. So I'm going to multiply each side by 7 over negative 4, which remember is what you do when you divide. It's just easier to show it here. Notice I do put it beside it, not under it. I like it beside it when it's multiply on each side. So these things all cancel, leaving me x. You can think of this over 1. I'm going to do my negative already, so we don't have to worry. 4 goes into 4 once, in there twice, and you get 14. Remember, if you're not sure, you can check it by putting this back in. And if you put a negative 14 in there, it's going to cancel with 7, giving you negative 2. Negative times negative is positive 8. Now we have a two-step. We want to get rid of anything added or subtracted first as far as numbers go, and then say multiply and divide for the last step. So this is a positive 9, so to get rid of it, I'm going to subtract 9 from each side. Please don't lose this negative sign that goes with the 2w. So it's negative 2w equals negative 20. Divide by negative 2. And you get w equals positive 10. So watch your signs. That's another big mistake in equations, is not paying attention to your signs. All right, next, again, we want to get rid of anything added or subtracted first, so I'm going to add 3 to each side. X over 7 equals 9. The opposite of divide by 7, which is really how you read the fraction bar, is multiply by 7. So I do that on each side, and I get x equals 63. Now, remember just a little while ago I told you we usually get rid of anything added or subtracted first, but here's an example because the fraction bar is like a grouping symbol. The whole thing is being divided by 5, so we need to get rid of that 5 first. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. These cancel, leaving us 2y plus 2 equal 20. Next step, subtract 2. 2y equal 18. Divide by 2, y equal 9. So again, we are showing our steps, even though some of you can get your answer faster without showing steps. We are showing steps, so I make sure everybody understands. And we have a word problem. In our word problems, I am going to make you do what's called defining a variable. You might not have had to do that before, but in here, to me, that's very important. So we're going to define our variable. Choose a letter and say what it means, stands for, write an equation, and solve it, and make sure you answer the question. So find 3 consecutive even integers whose sum, a little misprint there, so that shouldn't be there, is negative 30. So we're looking for 3 consecutive even integers. What does consecutive mean is the first thing you need to make sure you know, so one right after the other, but they're even and they're integers. So I'm going to let x equal my first even integer. Well, if x is my first one, what would the next one be? Well, even numbers are how far apart? They're 2 apart. So x plus 2 would be my second even integer. Use ditto marks, you know what those are. And I need 3 of them, so x plus 4 would be the third even integer. Now it says these consecutive even integers, their sum is negative 30. That means we're going to add them. So we're going to take the first one, x, plus the second one, x plus 2, and if you want to put it in parentheses, you can. I don't like to do that. I'm just going to get rid of them here in a minute. X plus 4, the third one, equals negative 30. Simplifying, x plus x is 3x. 2 plus 4 is 6, equal negative 30. So I need to subtract 6 from each side. Get 3x equals negative 36. Divide by 3, x equals negative 12. Now it's really important that we go back and read the question to make sure we're answering it. It says find 3. So I found the first one, which was x. How do I find the second one? Well, I defined my variable, so all I got to do is come right back up here. The second one is negative 12 plus 2, and this is, you don't usually have to write this out, negative 10, and then the third one is, again, put it right in here where the x is, negative 12 plus 4 would be negative 8. So my answer is really negative 12, negative 10, negative 8. I need all three of those. So how does solving an inequality differ from solving an equation? Really, there's only one time that it's different, and that's anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, you reverse your inequality. So if it's just y plus 6 is greater than 4, you just subtract 6 from each side and get y is greater than negative 2. Sometimes we'll talk about how to graph answers like that, but right now we're not going to be graphing them. I don't think I make you do that. But here's where we got a little issue. Negative 3x is less than 12. So the step would be to divide both sides by negative 3. So anytime you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, you reverse the inequality so it becomes greater than negative 4. So that is really the only way that inequalities differ as far as the steps you go through. Now remember, the answers differ because in an equation you get one number, in most cases. In an inequality you get an infinite number of solutions.